Welcome to the Will and Dave Show, where we talk about hard things, whether it's comfortable or not. We think those conversations are necessary and important. We think that having different opinions is crucial to a healthy discourse. So saddle up, and enjoy the fireside chat.
Hey, William.
Hey, Dave. How are you today?
Well, I'm awake. That's a good way to start the evening.
That is good. I'm going to adjust my focus a little bit. I'm a little out of focus.
I wish I could be out of focus.
Or I could just sit back a little bit more. I can cheat. I'm just lazy.
Hey, it all works. How was your week? Or actually, how was your 3 or 4 weeks? It's been a while since we've been on. How's it been?
It's our busiest season at work, so we're kind of balls to the wall with work right now. Got a haircut.
I see that.
Living life.
So do you mind if we delve into the haircut a little bit?
I mean, if you really want to.
Well, I was intrigued by the fact that you were getting harassed about your haircut. I get
I
harassed about
wouldn't
my
quite go
lack
so
of
far
hair.
as to say harassed,
Well, I get
but
harassed loosely and not in a horrible way, but in a joking way about
yeah,
my bald spot that nobody can see on camera because I don't have a camera behind me, but everybody teases me about it at work. And I work at a church. You'd think they'd be nicer than that to me because,
no.
we're all about
I played church hockey. I know better.
how long has it been since you played church hockey?
It's been a hot minute, but you try and convince me it's any different.
Yeah.
They don't change like that.
Uh,
Anywho,
church
I love
hockey.
church hockey. Don't get me wrong. It's just
So you,
when you're not allowed to hit people, they take out their aggression like in other ways. So it's the chippiest, chirpiest hockey you'll ever experience, apart from maybe women's hockey. That's not a denigrating. That is not a negative statement either. Women's hockey is so much fun to watch because they are so mean.
oh, it's wicked. It's hard reffing.
Yeah, I bet.
So to get back to your hair,
Yes, my hair or lack thereof.
you now look like an army sergeant with a beard.
I guess so. Yeah. I
Or
mean, statistically speaking, this is the most masculine configuration of hair a man can have, shaved on top with a beard. Because I need
just
all the
hold
help I
on a
can get to
sec.
be masculine.
Or
I've gotten Matthew McConaughey from Reign of Fire. I wish.
I would say we're just gonna do this. I think it's getting close to Jason Statham.
I mean, he does have the receding hairline. He's ahead of the game,
He is.
and I don't have nearly the cheekbones or the chin of Jason Statham, or the smile, the pecs, the abs.
You have that. Just a little
I
bit more
guess.
hair.
Yeah, just a bit fuzzier is all.
You
You
don't
saw a
have
picture
that.
like, yeah, I don't have that. No, I mean maybe hidden underneath a whole lot of fat.
I think you
Possibly,
have this
but
look a lot of the time, though. Like,
it's
what the heck?
You're not too far wrong.
Oh, Will. Anyways, before we get into the show, we would like to say what the show is about. This is the Will and Dave show where
Yeah.
it's okay to disagree. We actually encourage you to disagree, not only with us, because odds are you're going to disagree with one of the two of us because we seldom agree on everything.
It's kind of
But-
the gimmick.
No, Jeff, that is not you. You only wish that was you, but it is not.
You know, it's funny because right before the show, you were asking about why I cut my hair, and I was like, "Oh, I'm tired of people making fun of me for my hairdo." So you proceed to make fun of me for my hairdo, and so I just wanted to
But-
thank you for keeping me humble, there, Dave.
Hold on. I likened you to Jason Statham. I don't think that's
I guess,
mocking
yeah.
you at all. I think that's giving
That's
you
true.
a
That's true.
compliment.
This is true. I have a hard time receiving any kind of comparison to Jason Statham outside of in a comical sense. My brain automatically assumes that it's meant to be a funny
Well-
haha because I don't attribute myself to looking at all like Jason Statham.
Well, you're not
Thank you
this
for the
Jason
compliment, then.
Statham.
I'm closer to Woody Allen or Woody.
I think you're more
Harrelson.
like that Jason Statham.
yeah. Yep.
So yes, so the point of the Will and Dave show is that it's okay to disagree with either or both of us. It's okay to disagree with your friends and your family. What's not okay is to be a jerk about it. Is that
Yeah,
safe?
pretty
Will?
much. That's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we are smart asses on a regular basis.
No.
Better to be a smart ass than a dumbass. Don't worry, I do plenty of both.
What's that from?
I don't know actually. I think I just picked it up because you told it to me when I was younger.
I think it
remember-
comes from it's sort of a corollary to Robin Hood Men in Tights. It's better to be pissed off than pissed on. I think it's sort of the corollary to
That's
that.
probably where it comes from because I remember I got that from you and then from Jack Thiessen. Never assume it makes an ass out of you and me.
And that's as near as he ever came to swearing.
It was. That's part of why I remembered it. I was like, wow, that was really harsh, Jack.
And he will never see the show, so it's
No.
a safe bet.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's the show in a nutshell,
Hmm.
and we just want to share the fact with those around us that hey, it's okay to disagree, and we want to be an example of those who don't agree, and yet we still like each other most of the time.
I'd even go so far as to say that I think that surrounding yourself with people, not surrounding, but having people around you that disagree with you should be mandatory to a healthy lifestyle. If you agree with everyone in your circle, you need to find a better circle or a more eclectic circle at least.
Okay, so are you talking to me or to Will? Because I disagree with Will on everything too. Are you disagreeing with Will or
Everyone
Dave?
disagrees with me. I am an enigma.
So
You
while
know,
we,
it's like an old there's like an old wrestling adage. I guess it applies to a lot of things, but if you're the toughest guy in the room, find a different room. If everyone in the room agrees with you, go to a different room.
yes, I agree. I wholehearted agree. We're going to get the shilling out of the way. If you want to support the
Hmm.
show, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Will and Dave Show, and we thank you for your support. Um, for the price of a cup of coffee, you can support the show with money, which I may or
Or
may
time
not
the
share
show.
with Will when I go up and see him in November.
Probably not.
And for those of you who want to know who supports our show on an ongoing basis, William, why don't you pick one?
I will pick Stitch by Susan because I still don't remember the phone number for the other one. We are supported by Stitch by Susan. And Susan, the eponymous Susan of Stitch by Susan, her growing media empire of live streams, her Instagram, her quilting courses, all of this all follows under the umbrella of Stitched by Susan. It's a truly fantastic little corner of the internet. She most recently just posted one of her newest quilts, and it is mind-boggling the level of detail and craftsmanship that goes into these things. So I recommend, if you are someone who enjoys good art, check it out. If you're someone who has an interest in quilting, check out her courses. If you're someone who enjoys a really easy listening experience, you can check out her live streams or her podcast, Measure Twice, Cut Once. There's something for everyone, basically, within that umbrella. And we highly recommend it. And we're very grateful for her sponsoring the show.
Yeah, I I'm very thankful for her sponsoring the show. Our life around our house would be a whole lot more difficult.
Yeah.
So this afternoon we were editing another one of her videos for her membership, and I was reminded once again how good she really is.
Hmm.
And she was mad at herself for it wasn't absolutely perfect. And she's the only one who would ever notice. Nobody else will notice. It was awesome. And she is great. I am going to shill for Northern Truss in Fort St. John. If you are working on a house or a shop or a barn or any kind of structure and you need roof trusses, you want to call Northern Truss at 250-787-3033. Ask for Mallory. If you want to try, you can ask for Will, but he probably won't answer. And he doesn't know much about it anyways. You know, he's just the Will half of the Will and Dave show.
I'm just a grunt.
He's just a grunt. And other than that, they do metal roofing and metal siding. They do floor systems. They do roof systems. They do all of the above. Northern Trust in Fort St. John, 250-787-3033. I'd love to give them you their website, but it's my brother. I don't think he has one. We have a website,
We do.
and it's www.thewillanddaveshow.com.
You better believe it.
Well, Jeff, if you want to sponsor the show, you can give me the coffee without a bill. But every other time, I get a bill with the bag of coffee. So if you deliver it with no bill, I will give you sponsorship of the show. That's all it'll cost you is a bag of coffee, and I won't even share it with Will because I'm not hauling that bag of coffee to Canada. So, I'm sorry, Will, but you have to come down here to drink it.
Does this count as one swear word?
Is that
Does
to
that does
me
that
or to
count as a?
Jeff?
That was to you. Not to
Okay.
Jeff. Jeff seems like a nice guy.
Well, William, we should get on the. Oh, we have a new sponsor of the show. Here today, it's Jeffrey Bird of Dynamic Print Solutions. You can go to www.dynamicprintit.com. Dynamic
There you go.
Print It is now a sponsor of the show for the low price of a $40 5-pound bag of coffee beans.
Jesus.
Thank you, Jeff. You're on. You are the newest sponsor of the Will and Dave Show. Thank you.
Whether you like it or not, apparently.
That's right. Whether you like it or not.
Congrats.
Anybody else want to jump on the sponsorship bandwagon? Make a comment. Send us a gift of a bag of coffee. You are in.
Also, if you'd like to post suggestions for future topics of the show, you can go to our website, Will and Dave Show, where we have a little button there for posting suggestions, whether in text or video format. We welcome both. If it's video format, we'll reach out to you and see if you'd like to have your video played on the show. We're happy to do that. That's something we haven't had the chance to do before, but we want to pitch that idea out there until somebody hopefully takes us up on it.
That is correct.
Also, a tiny little piece of housekeeping. We mentioned a few weeks back, in yesteryear when we did the show last time, that I was a guest on another podcast, the Blue Collar Philosophers podcast. The episode that I was in has actually come out since then. If anyone is interested, you can check out the Blue Collar Philosophers wherever you find podcasts.
So I'm going to give them a plug, or you're going to give them a plug, and I'm going to have a little bit of a conversation about it. Even though I couldn't make it all the way through your first episode with them. Am I going to make it through all of this one?
I hope so. It's a little less riffy. It's still very much
to women's anatomy and physical functions was hard for even me to bear, and I have a pretty high tolerance.
It is a very different show from this one, obviously. The guys who run it are a couple of bikers. They're very, very nice gentlemen, but we don't hold back in terms of language or content as a general rule. We get into the nitty-gritty stuff. In this particular episode, I think that we were a lot more controlled and a lot more constructive. Although we did go off on a lot of tangents, we had a really good time. We were having some drinks while we recorded it. It was fun, as well as, I hope, informative. But we were talking about hairy subjects. We were talking about Jordan Peterson and transgender rights. So there's a lot of very sticky topics that we touched on.
And before we go much further, if we have a sponsor, and we used to do this all the time with our commenters, at least learn how to spell the name of your business. If you're going to make a comment and you can't spell, we are going to call you out on the show. I appreciate the sponsorship, Jeff, but when you can't spell the name of your business, you're going to get ribbed on air. For all of our 3 viewers, it's going to cost you, buddy.
Who needs pride anyways? It's overrated.
William, you have a new leader of the Conservative Party in Canada.
Yes, the Conservative Party of Canada did elect a new leader. I'm going to try and make sure I pronounce this right. It is Pierre Poilievre. Poilievre?
Yeah,
Pierre Poilievre.
This guy.
We have a picture of him.
Right there.
That guy.
And
And it's interesting. He is not someone that I would have thought would win, but he won by a pretty substantial margin. Quite comfortably, I would say. And it's going to be interesting because he is, every politician is trying to, obviously, but he's going to try and shake things up and put pressure on the incumbent party, the Liberal Party, headed by Justin Trudeau, and try and make some changes in Canadian government. And it's going to be interesting to see. I think Canadian politics hasn't been this interesting in a while. It's been noticeable, and not for good reasons, quite a few times lately. But this one is more liquid. I'm actually interested to see what happens as opposed to just dreading what happens.
So here's one of the things that I see, and I see my audio is laggy. I apologize. I'm going to work on this after the show because I notice it's been acting up.
It looks okay from my end, but I don't know about
yours is really good. So that's all I care about is that you look good. I don't care if I do or not. That's right, Will. I think this guy is going to be an enigma.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about him off air for about a week and a half now. We've been looking at the episode, or maybe even more than that.
Yep.
He aligns more with how I think as a conservative, and yet he's a career politician.
Mm-hmm.
and I don't like that. Even in a conservative, I don't like that. And yet, I think he may be the one hope, but that those right of center in Canada have.
Yes. I mean, it's going to be interesting because he's definitely is more libertarian,
Yes.
but I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to call him particularly conservative, at least from what I've been reading about him over the last couple of weeks. He
Right.
certainly does hold conservative, especially economically conservative ideals, but he does tend to lean into the libertarian side of things in the sense that he wants less government oversight on things, but he wants people to have the right to live their life the way they want to live their life,
Right.
uh, more generally,
What a
which
horrible
is,
concept.
I mean, it is. It's a great concept, although it's going to be interesting to see if that leans more towards the cut everyone loose and let them do what they
Right.
will, and more um, securing people's ability to be who they want to be. Like when you look at people like transgender or marginalized groups, are they just going to be set free to be who they want to be and other people can treat them as they will, or are they still going to have any level of protection from the inevitable backlash of
Right.
being given full-blooded rights within our society? So it's going to be interesting. I like Michelle's comment here that he may bridge the gap. That's
It's
kind of
true.
what that's what makes him so interesting to me, is I theorize that he might try to do that. I don't know how much success he'll have, but I'm very intrigued to see
Here's my
because,
question, though.
yeah,
If he bridges the gap, will he be a conservative?
I don't know.
And I
I don't
think
think,
the mystery of that in Canada, it may hurt him a little bit, as I believe there's a large amount of the population in Canada who are so angry with the perceived left
yeah,
that I don't know that they will go for a middle of the road candidate, as they want to swing for the right. And I don't know
hmm
that he is that,
at the
but
same
he may
time, I
win a
think,
minority government for 3 weeks until he gets a no
yeah.
confidence vote.
On the flip side, I think he's going to pull a lot of people who are just left of center towards him, because a lot of people who are just left of center are really fed up with the current government being, or even some people who are far left of center are really fed up with the current government of just being stagnant and not really doing anything of substance or value. And so they may jump on the wagon with him because even though he has a conservative coat of paint, some of the ideas that he's pushing forward, like some of his ideas around affordable housing, really do scream, like really do ring true with left
Right.
ideals.
So let me ask you, and not asking who you will vote for, because obviously there is not an election, except,
Yeah,
are you leaning his direction, or are you still going to go liberal? Are you going
I
to vote
need to see what
NDP
I need to see what
as a
he's going to
protest vote?
promise more, because currently he's been elected to the leadership of the Conservative Party in a
Right.
largely populist kind of
Yes.
playbook, which sounds great, but until he can start nailing down how he's going to do things, I'm going to reserve judgment. If what he wants to come true starts to come true, there's a reasonable chance that I would vote for him, I think.
Here's the thing, that you, in the last election, if I remember right, you voted NDP,
Yes, I did.
and it was more of a vote of conscience
Hmm.
and not of results, as I think all of us all know. The NDP are in rough shape in Canada, even more so
Yes,
now.
especially in Western Canada.
Well, and even now, after the partnership with the Liberal Party, I think has hurt them dramatically.
Yes, it has.
And so there are going to be those who were angry at the NDP who are going to look for a home
Hmm.
in the political arena in Canada. And
Yeah.
I don't know that very many of them are going to lean towards this guy who is, he's not very left. He's not very liberal. and he's not,
Certainly not economically. He isn't. No. It.
and again, I think that might hurt those of you who are more of the liberal mindset, who want the more of the liberal ideals. I don't know that he'll deliver them, and so I'm wondering
I
how
don't
that
know.
will end up. I mean, it may still be the same, and the majority of Canadians are going to look at him as safe.
I think many of them will look at him as safe. I think that enough people are mad at Trudeau and his government that a certain number of people are going to swing just for the sake of it being not Trudeau, and they're going to jump on the wagon of the NDP can't win, so the only other option then is Conservative,
Right.
which isn't a great way to vote, but it's just the way things are.
It is the way things are, and
I
that's
would
unfortunate.
hope, I mean, in a perfect world, I would hope that NDP would come to the table if and when Poilievre, if and when Poilievre, I keep wanting to say Poilievre, it's Poilievre. If and when Poilievre does try to enact some of the ideas, especially things again like around affordable housing, I would love to see the NDP come to the table and try to work with him for that. And whether or not they will, I don't know, because that would obviously sour their relationship with the Liberal Party. So this is why I say it's going to be interesting and it's very liquid, is because it's all very. I feel like it's very volatile right now. It can kind of go all over the place based on who
Right.
sides with who and who humps into bed with who and who kicks what political football.
That's
I
true.
feel like it's going to be very fast moving in the coming months,
Yes. And
because I think
here
the
in the
chances of an
U.S.
election are very, very high.
So let me ask you this: who in the world, like, so all the world is watching in the election in the U.S. as we're having our
Yeah,
midterms, which
yeah.
really mean not a whole lot. And yet I was watching a thing on YouTube the other day, and they're talking about these midterms elections in Australia,
Oh yeah.
in England, in Europe, in China, for crying out loud. Who in the global arena is watching the election of this guy in Canada for the
Not many.
Conservative Party? And I wonder who cares enough
Nobody seems
in
to
the
really care
global
about
world.
Canadian politics until something bombastic happens, and then we show up as a little blip on the radar, like the Freedom 2022 convoy
Right.
that showed up on international news all over the place, and then went just as quickly. That good old 24-hour news cycle just ate it up and spit it out real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting statement on the impact on the globe
Yeah,
that the U.S. has over what. And it's odd, as Canada is a first world country. Like
yeah.
it's a producer. It's one of the largest. It is
Hmm.
the largest now, isn't it? It used to be Russia, and I don't believe it is anymore.
I don't know. That's another, to lead into it. That's another building block of Poilievre's platform, is focusing on using our own natural resources for ourselves rather than buying them from other places.
No, it still is Russia over Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean, I think currently, at least on the international market, we're probably doing better than Russia because nobody wants to buy from Russia right now. But it's going to be interesting to see, because like on the surface, I love the idea of utilizing our own resources as opposed to shipping them across to the states to be refined, or
right,
buying natural resources from Russia. Like, why would we buy natural gas or oil from Russia when we produce so much of it here? I don't know if he'll ever be able to make those changes, because those economic through lines, the people who wield that kind of money aren't going to give that up quickly or easily.
right, right.
So I don't know how doable that is. In theory, I love it. I like it. I mean, I have certain things with certain practices of the oil and gas industry in Canada, but as a whole, I'd rather it stay in house as much as we could. I feel like that. I feel like that is a good thing. But I don't know. I don't know if it's doable. I don't know if it's possible. It's, again, it's populism. It's a great pipe dream, but how realistic it is remains to be seen. If he can actually make any steps towards making it a reality, I don't know. But I mean, I want it to work out.
You're on your own
That
for a minute.
sounds
I just
great.
have to answer a message here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. That's all right. Yeah, It's going to be interesting. Nobody's going to care about Canadian politics until the election is done and finished. At least nobody outside of Canada, because it's all moot. I think everyone gives a crap about the American politics because America is, if not necessarily by number, I think by volume, it's got to be one of the highest consumption countries on the planet. Not necessarily like, I'm sure places like China or Russia consume more because they have a much larger population, but I think pound for pound and pound for person, America probably guzzles more gas and uses more electronics and more luxury items than any other country out there. I feel like everyone has to give a crap about them because they make everyone else rich. They buy all the stuff, they eat all the things, they drive all the things. It's, I think that's a large, I mean, obviously the fact that they have the world's largest military by like a factor of 10 probably also has something to do with it. Who knows? Maybe. But I think that their rampant consumption is a big part of why everyone gives a crap about the States, because economically they have to.
It's a yeah, it's a phenomenon that it'll be the subject of a lot of history lessons over the years, as because I think America is the elephant in the room, and yet it is just as ugly as any elephant you've ever seen in real life. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
I always think back to that newsroom clip.
Oh,
I always think back to that clip. That clip is burned into my brain.
I would play it again, except we'd get another copyright strike, so I'm not going to do it. By golly.
Long story short, America is not the greatest country in the world. It might be the most powerful, but it's
Yes.
not the greatest. And people who think that are wrong. They need to rethink what they determine as great.
Who is not the greatest as well is Canada, and I would rank it
It's true.
much lower on the scale. Even though I was reading a report here the other day, and it was ranked as number 1 of the best countries to live in. And I'm thinking, have you ever gone to the hospital for a collarbone operation? Yeah, no.
Yeah. I think that's a more recent problem. It is, I mean, as countries to live in go, I think Canada is pretty high up there, especially in terms of, accepting people from other nationalities and other paths of life. I think Canada is really high up there for
Huh?
easy integration within our culture, as we don't really have a set or hard coded culture.
You have a
Canadian,
mishmash.
that's
You're
it.
like
Like
the
that
mutt.
is
You're like
our,
the international
yeah.
mutt.
That's what I mean, though. Like, it makes it so that it doesn't feel as much. If you're from another culture, if you're coming into our culture, I don't think the culture shock is as great, because there's a high likelihood that you can find a pocket of your home culture somewhere in Canada quite easily,
Yeah,
and
the
not catch
culture.
much flack for doing it.
The culture in Canada is like the mongrel dog that you bring home. You don't know its ancestry, you don't know its breeding, you don't know anything about it. You take it home until he bites little Junior, and then you put him to sleep because he's a dumb dog.
I feel like you're finding the worst possible. I think of it more like you find a dog in a shelter, you don't know what breed it is. It's a mutt, but it's the best dog you've ever had. Somewhere in the middle there exists Canada.
You have
We're not
Trudeau in power. That is not the best dog you've ever had.
I said somewhere in the middle.
Oh,
damn
somewhere in the middle. Oh, okay.
And I'm not talking exclusively about the government. I mean the people as a whole. I feel like Canada is a generally, me who lives in the far western end of Canada, Canada is generally a pretty accepting place of outside influence and cultures, and allowing them to integrate, not assimilate, but integrate.
Well, apparently it isn't okay with people from Western Canada showing up in the capital in their semi-trucks.
Apparently.
Outside culture is okay, but not inside culture. We don't want that.
I don't know if that quite qualifies as culture, but yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they should have come from Iran, then they could have been accepted as a culture. I picked the first country that came off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I don't know why Iran is. Anyways, I went a little bit extreme with that.
That's okay. I'll forgive it this time. Next time, though, oh boy.
So in the U.S., we're having midterms.
Yes, you are.
For those of us who care, I got an argument with Jeff, who was on here earlier, yesterday. And it is a fascinating just experiment in culture in the U.S.
Yeah.
It is so polarizing, so polarizing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be interesting how this all pans out. Because I don't think it's going to be the hard swing right, which a year ago or even 3 months ago was predicted.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it'll be a hard swing. I wouldn't be surprised if it does swing a bit right, like if the Senate and the House get weakened in terms of like the left's grip on them.
Well, they can't get
Um,
much more weakened without losing them,
well,
as
yeah,
it's dead even
that's
in the
it.
Senate, and the House isn't that far off.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think it's become. I think it's. I don't know if it's a byproduct of Trump, or maybe it's a byproduct of me just getting older. I'm not sure. But I feel like people within my age demographic and my group, the shows that I watch, the Philip DeFrancos and such like that, over the last few years, they started to care so much more about the nitty gritties of politics, like midterms, like people in charge of power grids in Texas and people in charge of water in Wisconsin or whatever, and things like this, things
Mhm.
that are
Yeah.
much more deep rooted within America as a country and as a
Right.
political landscape. And I don't know how much of that is me just getting older and hitting that phase where I start to pay attention less so to the bombasticness and the headlines and more so to the infrastructure, or if it is a cultural shift kind of with my generation that we're starting to dig deeper into those things and where the problems lie and finding them out. Like Texas
Wait.
power grid being buggered is not a new problem. It's new to me and it's
Oh,
new to being a big news article, but it's not a new problem.
is it okay if we talk about electricity for just a minute?
Yeah, sure.
We might have mentioned this at the last show. I can't remember. I believe it was right as we were ending. But I
Possible.
don't know if you remember, about a month and a half ago, there was an announcement at the government of California announced that all new vehicles, which were sold in 2032, I believe, maybe 35, all had to be electric vehicles.
Yeah.
The same afternoon that they made this announcement that all these vehicles all need to be electric in 10 years or 15 years or whatever the number is,
Hmm.
they made an announcement asking everybody to not be plugging in their electric vehicles as they were experiencing overdraw on the power system, and they didn't want everybody charging their vehicle in the evening
Yeah.
from 3 to 7 or something silly.
It's
Am I the only one who looks at this hype up on electric vehicles? And I like them. I like Tesla. You know, I'm a fan of the Ford Lightning. I think they're awesome technology.
Yep.
But it's not a world saver, and it's not an environment saver.
I'm not sure. I mean, an immediate environment saver, sure. It'll cut down on smog and chemicals within cities to have more electric vehicles.
Look at the
Like
size of
large,
the mines for the
I was just going to say,
yeah.
large scale environmental change. I don't know how much of a difference maker it is. Depending on which side you talk to, lithium mines produce less overall than a city full of gas guzzling cars. I don't actually know where that
Right.
line sits.
I was laughing though. I was watching I forget who did it. It was an episode on Tesla, and they were talking about how this electric company relies on oil and gas.
Yeah,
Is they
many do.
rely on oil and natural gas for so many of the feeder industries which feeds it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It was such a and only government can do this. You know, we want all our vehicles all to be electric, and then an hour and a half later, we don't want you to plug your vehicles in at night as the power grid needs a break.
So this is going to sound like I'm going off on a tangent, but I swear it's somewhat relevant.
Okay.
It's a rabbit hole that I've been going down lately. So I've been listening to a lot of uh, podcasts around veganism lately.
Oh man,
I've been
you'd
taking
save
an
so
interest in
much
it.
money.
Huh?
You would save so much money.
Yeah, I would. That's honestly part of the allure of cutting down the meat that I consume is purely financial. Um, but there was some really good podcasts with a gentleman who goes by Earthling Ed and another gentleman who has both a podcast and a YouTube channel called Cosmic Skeptic. And they're both vegans, but they spent this episode poking holes in vegan ideology. And one of them was poking into the idea of, if veganism is based around the idea of consuming enough nutrition to while causing as little harm as possible to the environment, specifically other
Is that this
animals.
guy?
Yes, it is. And that is the episode right there. Veganism Reconsidered. I believe that's the one. It's
With
an amazing
Earthling
episode.
Ed.
Yes, Earthling Ed. I highly, highly recommend to anyone, whether you have an interest in veganism or not, to listen to that podcast, because that is a great example of two really intelligent people.
Who is the
They
other guy
ask
you were listening
questions.
to?
Cosmic Skeptic. That's the channel that episode is on. Like at the very top, that is the
Yeah, that's
episode that
his
I'm
show,
referring
isn't
to.
it?
Yes, it's Cosmic Skeptic show, and he had Earthling Ed on it.
Oh, okay.
But I'm trying to get here to the point. But
Okay, I'm sorry.
the idea is causing as little harm as possible, and Cosmic Skeptic, kind of poses these questions to Earthling Ed about how, I mean, obviously there's crop death when you have these large crops to feed people who are eating vegetables. You're going to cause death to the other life forms in the area, like mice, birds, etc., whatever. It's an inevitable thing that we cause some damage when we produce food to feed ourselves en masse. But then he's like, well, what about things like vegan chocolate? Does that need to exist? We don't need vegan chocolate. And so is a vegan eating non-necessary things, is that ethically okay? And they pose these questions, and the idea of consumption is what comes to mind for me. And it's so normal for us to just consume enough to make ourselves happy, whatever that amount may be, whether that's healthy or not. For me, I eat way more than I need to. I've been on this thing of trying to learn how many calories, how many grams of fiber, how many grams of protein does my body require based on its nutritional needs to actually function, and how much am I actually eating? And they're way out of whack. And I look at things like electric cars, and obviously I'm right there with you that trying to switch over to an all electric car grid is impossible in that short of a time frame, because we have to completely change the infrastructure around how we drive and the energy that we produce. We still need energy to do it, but we have to completely change how we produce it. And whether or not those new methods are actually going to have less impact than the old methods, I mean, obviously I think they do, but by how big of a
Right.
margin? Is it worth the effort? Yada, yada, yada. I feel like the bigger change is less what kind of cars do we drive,
Right.
but why are we driving so many cars? I think is a better question. Like if I wanted to get into the nitty gritties of giving a crap environmentally, and in terms of energy production, the best way to do it is to require less energy. And this actually feeds into my comment about America being the consumption capital of the world. There's so much of it that just doesn't need to be. Canada's bad for it too, especially when you talk about roads and things like that. I could go on a tangent about shitty road design in Canada, but
You don't. It doesn't only exist in Canada. It
no,
exists
no,
here too.
it was born in the States. Canada just copied it.
I remember Mallory, your boss, my brother,
Yep.
and sponsor of the show at northerntrust.com or Northern Trust, 250-787-3033. There's a
I
plug
can't
for you.
remember that.
One of the things he used to say is, we can stick a man on the moon if you believe they actually made it there,
They did.
and yet we can't make a smooth highway.
Yeah.
We can't eliminate potholes, and yet we can stick a man on the moon. So
It's
I
crazy.
love you, Michelle, and I know who you are. We need to discuss punctuation.
Oh, that's low. That's
Hey, she's smarter than that. I know Michelle. Sorry, Michelle. I have a
every
friend
time
who-
we get pedantic about those, we're setting ourselves up, because when we finally make a mistake, they're going to nail us to a cross for
Oh,
it.
it happens all the time. I have a friend who's watching, and she won't comment because people will see her name. How the heck do you think I
Yeah,
feel
Dave.
with my ugly mug on here? People
Way to attack our biggest fan. Jeez, Dave. But I'll take you up on that conversation, Michelle, because I'm probably going to be there for Thanksgiving. So see you then.
vegan turkeys.
What?
Vegan turkeys.
That is an oxymoron.
Well, you have to eat a turkey for Thanksgiving. What the heck
No, you
is it
don't.
going to
You can eat
be?
whatever you want for Thanksgiving.
No, ham and turkey.
You don't get vegan ham or vegan turkey
I
because
guess we made
those
out of
things don't
tofu.
exist.
It'll be made out of tofu.
But then it's just tofu.
But you
Then it's
shape
just
it like a
Thanksgiving
turkey and it
tofu.
makes everybody think you're eating turkey. It's just like Burger King with the Impossible Burger. They want to sell it as a burger, but it's not burger.
That is my biggest pet peeve about vegan food is there seems to be a portion of the culture that is obsessed with imitating meat. And I'm just like, stop. Vegan food can be so delicious. You don't need to be like, it's a vegan beef patty. No. It's a vegan patty. It's not vegan beyond meat. It's just a vegan burger patty.
But it's not a burger because a burger is
No,
made
no,
out of beef, so don't call it a burger
no,
patty.
no.
No, no,
You have
no.
a chicken burger. Chicken burger is still a burger. A burger is that format of vegetables
Okay.
and protein between buns. So it could be whatever. But you can make like I've had like a mushroom cap burger that's like just like a big portobello mushroom cap that's like grilled up with sauce. It's delicious. It is nothing like beef. It doesn't taste anything like beef, and I don't want it to. I enjoy the fact that it's something completely different from beef.
So I'm gonna post this in the comments, and not because it is not from me. It's from a friend of mine who is watching, and I just love it because she won't post. But this is what she sent me in a Facebook message. I have so many comments. Come on, I dare you. Share your identity. I dare you. Come on. Over to the dark side. Let
or just
people know.
text Dave and he'll share them. We
Yeah,
can
I'm
go
doing that
around
too. And that way
I'm
it's
more
just
interested in hearing what she has to say than I am about knowing who she is. I'm happy to answer anonymous
Hey,
questions.
it might be a
too.
he.
It might be a he.
It
They
might be a he. They
use gender neutral terms.
Oh my gosh! Don't even.
Not
get me
because
going. I'm just harassing you because I can't.
It's the easy middle ground. Can't be wrong if I don't pick a side.
You can absolutely
Those
be wrong if
persons,
you pick a side. You can absolutely be
in
wrong.
that particular case, I can't. If anyone complains about me using a gender neutral term to describe them, I'm just going to refer to them as dude for the rest of eternity, and they can live with it.
Dude.
Because I consider dude gender neutral.
Where? What was the line in Rat Race? Remember the two guys who came out of Rat Race and they had the show, made the movie Dude, Where's My Car? But they were also in Rat Race with Mr. Bean. You remember Rat Race, right? The movie?
Yeah, I remember Rat Race, but they
Their
didn't.
car
Dude,
got-
Where's My Car was Ashton Kutcher and
Weren't they in the
Shawn
same
Michael
movie?
Murray. No,
Okay.
the guys from Rat Race, I mean, similar characters.
Right.
But they were played by Seth Green and another guy whose name I can't remember in Rat Race. But they were great.
Who-
The guy with the tongue piercing.
Yeah, who ended up there with their car towed up
Yeah.
the windmill or whatever that was, a radar
It's-
tower.
Yeah. It's something about the way that the car was getting picked up by the helicopter and he looks
Yes.
down and starts screaming. That's like my favorite acting moments. That scream was genuine terror. That was
I'm
a
gonna
beautiful
race, I'm
moment.
gonna race, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win. There's my one
Rowan
not
Atkinson's a
interpretation.
treasure.
not interpretation, my one
He's a
imitation.
treasure.
What's the word I
Imitation.
want? Imitation, yes.
There you go.
William,
Impression.
it's been fun. Impression, that's the word I'm looking for.
Impression.
It's been fun.
It has.
It's been real.
Usually is.
It's even been real fun. And we didn't
Yes.
even argue that much except about pronouns.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because pronouns are dumb.
I think you're wrong, but okay.
Well, that's okay.
I think I hold them to the same level that I hold calling people, like when I grew up, calling people by ma'am and by sir. It was just a general honorific that you just blanketly use. Now we've grown past ma'am and sir, and now it's just using appropriate pronouns. I kind of put it the same level of how much of a crap I give. It's base level respect for me. I don't do it because I think very highly of it necessarily or think that it's a thing of great import. but it's just a base level respect response from me towards people.
There you go. You're so respectful.
Sometimes.
Where the heck was this when you were 13
I do not know.
or 16?
I don't want to think about those years.
I was
The dark
reminiscing about
times.
them the other day, actually.
There's a really good edit of someone took the scene from A New Hope, like Star Wars A New Hope, where Obi-Wan Kenobi
that
is
even a
giving
movie?
Luke. Yeah. He's giving Luke the lightsaber and making vague references to I knew your father, best fighter pilot I ever knew. And he references the dark times, and someone edited in like all the really truly terrible scenes from like the Clone Wars and all these things, like the truly traumatizing stuff, and do like a flashback sequence. It was really good. That's me when I think about my teenage years. The dark times.
So the other day I was reminiscing about your graduation meal. Remember that?
Unfortunately.
Why? It was lobster and baseball steaks. That's what you wanted.
It was delicious.
Yes.
See, it's funny. When I think of my graduation dinner, those are not the first things that pop into my head.
What do you
It's not
think
that
of?
people came all the way out to Graham to hang out.
What do you
I
think
think of you guys putting me in a skirt and then trying to shove a water hose down my shorts.
That sounds like
Those are the
something.
things that immediately pop into my head. You got the skirt on me, but you didn't get the hose down my shorts, despite my hands being duct taped. And I'm very proud of that fact, actually. There was like you and Ken
Oh, there was a bunch
and
of
somebody
us.
else that was like trying to pin me to the ground, and I wasn't having it. Yay for being a large boy.
William, I love you, my son, but it's time to hang this show up for the
Yes,
night.
it is.
It's been real. We probably will not be 3 weeks until the next one.
Hopefully not, but we
And-
may not be every weekend anymore because we're both very busy. Come
And
winter,
The end of this month is another anniversary of the show.
yes, it is.
We began Halloween night of 2020 or 21.
Yep.
Yep, what? Which one was it?
20, because it'll have been 2 years.
That's right. We were 2 years in, which is actually kind of cool when, if you ask a friend
I
like
like it.
me.
Our uploading hasn't been perfect, but it's pretty good for a show that we don't get paid for.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'm pretty proud of the work we put into this and how far we've come.
I'm not happy with my delay on my audio, but I'm going to fix that before the next show. All the best things start on Halloween. Well, thank you, Michelle.
Michelle is right. Spooky season, best season.
Okay, so William, do you have anything to say to our fine feathered friends?
First, I want to just acknowledge that comment, the last one. Yes, we have very strange traditions up here. That's only half as strange as when we rode our moose to school.
So do you know who that is?
I don't actually.
I don't either, but welcome to the show.
Yes,
Whoever
welcome.
you might be. Strange Canadian graduation tradition. I still remember where he had the cook
Super
from
strange.
camp who cooked
Jermaine?
your lobster steak. Lobster and the steak on the barbecue. Yep.
Was it Jermaine or was it Gary?
It was Jermaine.
It's Jermaine.
Our
I like
Jamaican
Jermaine.
cook. He was amazing.
He taught me that corn does not have to be a boring dish.
There you go.
Bless his soul.
So, William, would you send these fine folks off with your usual blessing?
I will. Stay safe, folks. Have a good night. Don't die. See you next time.